Time now for this week's shocking stat of the week. You know I love the big government can solve just about everything mantra. I just wish we could find examples of actually where that's true, or at least, the very least, be spared the myriad of examples where it has not worked out. I think my favorite promise, though, favorite promise at least that the public buys into, is that the government can control or manage the economy. Remember last federal election? That was one of the big themes. Which party is best suited to manage the economy, to control the economy? That is just such nonsense, but it's such demonstrable nonsense. I mean, all you have to do is look around the world. If governments could control or manage the economy effectively, they're not doing it in a single country in the world. Why not? Anyways, it's worth a good laugh. And we seem to love, a part of that was, we seem to love the infrastructure spending will come to the rescue narrative of the economy. And we do see that on both sides of the border. We were first in Canada off the gate with that, with Justin Trudeau promising infrastructure spending in order to save the Canadian economy, jumpstart it. And in the States right now, you've got Donald Trump making the same kinds of promises. Well, in Canada's case, the only problem is that the promised spending on infrastructure so small compared to a $2 trillion economy. As I pointed out at the time, it could never make a dent. I'm on record as saying, by the way, this is a very good time to borrow for infrastructure. I mean, we've got record low interest rates. But whether that's a good idea is totally dependent on what it's spent on. I mean, are the projects able to directly increase the productive capacity of the economy? That's the key measure. And that brings me to this week's shocking stat. I was reading a special report to the National Post this week by Charles Lamont and Hugh McIntyre, where they noted that only, are you listening? 11 cents of every dollar, 11 cents of every dollar only of the $100 billion promise in new federal infrastructure spending will be spent on things that I think most people think infrastructure is. Public transportation, trade infrastructure. No, only 11 cents. Then I was reading the new report by the Senate, came out in February, on infrastructure spending. And it certainly negates that sort of infrastructure spending is going to boost the economy narrative. The Senate report found that only, well, of the $13.6 billion in infrastructure spending planned for this fiscal year, 2016-17, and the next one, 2017-18, there were 1,402 projects have been approved. But here's the part. Only 308 projects worth $806 million have actually been started. Not enough to cause even a ripple in the overall economy. And I might say maybe I'm just mentioning those things because they certainly confirm what we said absolutely from the get-go, that this talk that infrastructure spending would rescue the Canadian economy was nonsense. But furthermore, I made it very clear that yes, while it's a good time to borrow, whether it's a good idea to, totally dependent on what they're spending the money to. And I find it very worrisome that only 11 cents out of every dollar of the $100 billion promised are earmarked for things that would improve our core infrastructure and trade infrastructure. That is not going to work out well. Now, I don't know if I'm shocked, because we've seen it before, where infrastructure spending becomes the catch-all phrase for politically motivated spending. It's a catch-all phrase because we, the voters, are just too lazy to ask for details. The other side, of course, is that slow pace that projects will be done, usually without any cost-benefit analysis, I might add. No analysis as to the benefit to the overall economy in improving our productive capacity. But I think maybe I'm not shocked, but it's still important for all of us to know.